Boy, has it been a while since I've done a video here, and some of you may be unhappy that it's not a backpack video. I did end up going with a utility bike, and the one that I went with was the Espin Nesta. And so let's take a look at it. Okay, so here is the Espin Nesta. Now, you should know that I've actually had this now for a full year at this point, and I've done quite a bit of upgrading to it, which has very likely voided the warranty, which I think is at this point past the warranty period anyway. So a couple things to note here. I do have two batteries attached to this. The initial battery that comes with the Espin, or used to come with the Espin, I think is only 10.5, and it's not really enough, and so I have a 17.5 attached to the bike as well at the same time. And then very importantly, from Area 13, I did actually order their connector that allows you to do parallel battery connections, which is what you absolutely must have. You can't just put two batteries together and expect it to be safe. You can see here that I also did add baskets, which I think really make it the utility mobile that it needs to be. And both of these are from Rad Power Bikes. In the first case, you can see back here, I just mounted this thing on the rack, the rear rack that does come with the Espin Nesta, or at least it came with the package that I got. Not all of them did at that point. And I did add a board on the top, an oak board on the top there, and then I was able to fix this large basket from Rad Power Bikes to that oak board, as you can see right there, with 4 bolts that go clear on through. And then also importantly, I actually, as much as I thought I would use this bike more as a folding bike, I would fold it up and put it into the minivan and bring it with me wherever I wanted to go. In the end, it turns out I really didn't do it all that often. And in fact, I've pretty much left it set up just like this. And a couple reasons why. It is a beast. The thing is heavy, but it's also much bigger than you may realize in person. And as a result, even if it's folded, it still is a pretty bulky thing. And while it would fit in the back of a minivan, it would take some wrangling to do it. So I'm not sure about the utility of it being a folding bike. And it does, I mean, it's not like it makes that much of a big deal when you're talking about an e-bike, but this folding mechanism that you can see right here, it's pretty bulky. And, you know, if I didn't have it there, if it was just sort of a continuous part of the frame there, it might have lost a little bit of weight, and it also, maybe more importantly, would have made it a little bit of a stronger frame. Now, it's not like I think this frame is going to fall apart on us, but certainly it's a place where there could be failure. You'll also note there that I have different pedals. I removed those pedals that came with the bike, which were those folding pedals. Really, they're just too slippery, and I felt like anytime I was in wet weather, my feet would potentially slip off of them, because I do pedal this bike fairly often. Notably, though, do you see how the teeth are bent? And that's because pedal strike happens a lot when you're turning with this bike. You don't even have to be banking all that severely for you to have pedal strike. So I almost never pedal through any sort of banking when I'm trying to turn because of this pedal strike issue. You can see it's really bent the heck out of the teeth that were in, you know, before they were as pristine as the ones that are right there in the front of the cage that now have really gotten chewed up by the road. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. The other thing I did change is I swapped out and I put in Tektro brakes, hydraulic brakes, instead of the Zoom hydraulic brakes, and I upped the size of the disc to 180. It's not called the disc. I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, I made it a bigger, so because this is a heavy machine, and the more braking power I had, I felt like was better. You can see there I did add a little bit of bling there. I put in a red valve cap there. And I did put in a suspension seat post here, which I think is really kind of helpful for a bike like this, because as much as the front suspension does take a lot of the big hits out and, you know, sort of the low vibrations, it's really only out of the front, and most of your weight obviously is on your butt on the back here, and if you're somebody who sits as they ride, you feel it. So this really does soften up the ride quite a bit to have this. And actually I find this seat to be surprisingly comfortable. I thought I was going to have to go to something that wasn't quite so wide, because this is like for really kind of perhaps people who are not exercising as much as they would like to. And so typically those wide seats are actually not comfortable for somebody who does a lot of cycling, and it sort of leads to chafing and some discomfort. But this ends up being pretty comfortable because I'm not really using this bike for exercise. I'm using it entirely as a commuting mobile. Speaking of commuting mobile, you'll note too that I did swap out the handlebars on this thing. Instead of having that giraffe-like neck extension, which I thought was hideous and actually made the bike sort of handle funny, I went to these fun handlebars, which are, I think I purchased these, I can't remember now. I'll write on the screen where I got them. But they really are a perfect size. They're the same width as actually a little bit wider than the bars that came with the Espin. And as a result, it allows me to more easily put on a rear view mirror there and rearrange a few things on the deck. Rather than having that zippered sock-like thing that originally was on the Espin Nesta that held all the cables together, I separated them out. I'm not sure if this looks that much better. It just looks more conventional, kind of like my actual mountain bike and all the other bikes I have in my stable. This front basket here, also from Rad Power Bikes, it happens to almost perfectly fit to the same places here. I had to do a little bit of drilling to expand the size, the holes upwards. So vertical fit was not perfect, but side to side was dead on. So it does require that you remove the rack, the front rack that used to be here with the Espin. I've removed that, so now this basket is sort of one and all. I actually think this is a much cleaner look, rather than having a basket sitting on the front. Having the basket be the only thing that's up front looks a lot better to me. And I really do like the way that the wood looks. It kind of accents the wood that I put on here on the back rack that came with the Nesta. Notice too that I have changed out the wheels. And the reason I changed out the wheels are twofold. One, as we moved into the winter months, I actually converted the original wheels, or not wheels, the tires that were on here. I put studs in them. And so since right now it's moving towards spring, I don't have that studded tire on there. And you'll notice too, if you look carefully, that's not the original rim. That's not the one that comes with the Nesta. In fact, that's an aftermarket rim, so that all I have to do if we have icy weather is to swap out the wheel. So it's just really a matter of sort of undoing the bolts and swapping them when the weather gets inclement. And then this summer, I plan to get rid of knobbies altogether and just go with slick tires that I have also purchased. But the other reason why I had to swap tires here, or got another set of tires, is that I was surprised how quickly the rear tire wore down to completely bald in the middle. And so at that point, I thought, well, if I'm going to get a tire anyway, I might as well get two of them. E-bikes, I didn't realize how much they wear away the rear tire if you have the a motorized hub in the back. But oh boy, it does. It's like it's like an eraser, how quickly it wears down. Okay, so there it is. Again, I have made some modifications, but I will tell you that this bike is really a great commuter for me. It allows me to put my backpack or my bags easily into it. I can actually clip my coffee mug right up into here and have it hold still. And, you know, it goes through rain, a lot of rain that we have here in Connecticut, so I've had to deal with that. It's pretty zippy. We have lots of hills here on my campus, and so it can climb up those hills without too much problem. The only thing that I would suggest is that it goes pretty quickly, and if you're somebody who's on the road, make sure you get a really good helmet. Get at least one that has MIPS in it, because if you fall when you're going 25 miles per hour, that's a lot different than if you fall when you're going 12 miles per hour, obviously, folks. Shoot, I realized as I was driving back down the driveway to put the bike away that there was one thing I forgot to tell you guys about that I did upgrade. So Espin does provide a headlight. They have a great tail light here, by the way, and it's something that I think is one of the best features of it. It's a tail light that when you put on the brakes actually gets brighter. So I think that's kind of brilliant. But you can see, right, it's on right now. So it has that sort of center pinkish white light that's on. And then I have up front, I replaced the headlight that Espin sent with it, and I put in a much brighter light. So this one is really as bright as a car headlight that you see here. You may not be able to tell because I'm not going to go right. Well, maybe I should just to prove it to you. If I go right on center, you can see how crazy bright it is. And so I have that hanging down from the front basket, and I did need an extension cable to connect it, but that wasn't too bad. And it allows me to safely use this thing at night because I often am coming home, especially in the winter months, coming home long after it's dark out. So it was essential for me to get something that wasn't just a to be seen, but that actually helps me to see kind of light. So that's what we got going right there in the front. All right, so there you have it. Show around of the Espin Nesta, the bike that I decided to go with.